Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. We have a jam-packed episode for you this week. I have so many titles I'm excited to dig into, including some of my favorite labels, including the Criterion Collection, Deaf Crocodile, Radiance Films, 88 Films, Eureka, Lionsgate. I have so many titles to dig into. Anyone who's a fan of mine knows that they are in for a long journey, but I will do my best to go through things as quickly as possible while still giving you all the pertinent information I think you need to know. I'm really excited to spotlight all of this, but first, I have a confession to make. I was wrong. Specifically, I want to draw attention to my episode from last week in which I reviewed Ben 10, the complete series on DVD. Now, one of the perils of reviewing an expansive box set, a long-running TV show, is I typically try to sample as many of the seasons as possible to make sure there's like a quality and consistency amongst the set, and make sure everything's looking good and sounding good and all that good stuff. What happened with this one, and what I realized after I published last week's episode, is that in this second case here with Ben 10 Omniverse, it says that it has all 80 episodes here. That is a lie. It only has half of those episodes. About 40 episodes are actually on the disc, because what Warner Brothers did on this one is recycled all of the previous released discs from that were previously released, and just brought those episodes and tricked fans into thinking that they had finally completed the series. As I mentioned last week, I only was into the series for the first couple when I was collecting, and I did not know that they never actually completed they didn't complete this series on DVD. So I did not check as closely as I maybe should have to make sure this was actually a complete series. So since that has been brought to my attention, I have contacted a couple of people, including the people I got the set from and my contact at the Warner Archive, who, while there are different divisions in the Warner Brothers family, I know that they, even though they did not work on this set and they would not have let this fly, they do know who they can get in contact to at least alert people to the issue that would be in charge of this. On the off chance that they did not know, I have a strong suspicion that nothing will be done about this, because there's needs to be about 8 more discs worth of content, and that's a pretty big mess up and correction rollout. I'm not sure how they would do that, but I'm doing everything I can to try to raise this awareness on this issue, that this complete collection is not complete. So if you're a Ben 10 fan who is listening to me and thinking that they were finally going to get the complete collection in one set, it is not the complete collection. It is just all the previously available discs, and which means you're missing about 40 episodes of Omniverse. I deeply apologize for that oversight, but I did want to bring awareness to that issue, and hopefully, if you are a Ben 10 fan, keep making noise online to kind of like pressure Warner Brothers to hopefully correct this set, because it really does. It's a disservice to fans, and hopefully that they will be able to correct this for everyone who is hoping that they would be getting a legit complete collection. So, fair warning on this. While the discs that are there are good, it's just an incomplete set, so just be aware of that. And with that said, I will dig into my new slate of titles for this week. And my first title up is one of the kind of bigger movies in this first part of 2025. It is the newest from the MCU in Disney. It is Captain America: Brave New World. This is the 4K version, Steelbook. That you can see this removable J card here. I like this artwork. This is pretty nice. And there we go. So this has both the 4K and Blu-ray disc. I will remove those discs. So this is the latest MCU film after there's a bit of a break last year. Well, we had the Marvels, well, that I think that was actually in 2023. We had a bit of a break in 2024 on the MCU on the big screen. So this is kind of marking the return that continued with Thunderbolts in theaters now, but which I'll probably cover in a couple months. This was picking up where the Falcon and Winter Soldier television series dropped off, and picking up with Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie as the new Captain America. And then we have Harrison Ford coming in or replacing the late William Hurt as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. What I can say specifically about this story without getting too into the weeds is if you're going to be watching this film and you want a bit of a refresher, while it's helpful to kind of be aware of the Falcon and Winter Soldier story, I think maybe more importantly is to go rewatch The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, because there's a lot of references to that I had not seen that movie in well over a decade. And while I remembered enough of it, I think a little bit of a refresher would have helped when watching this with some of the developments and characters and stuff that show up here. But overall, it kind of continues that disappointing downslope that the MCU has been on for a little while. This kind of felt more like a Disney Plus version of the MCU that, like I said, like Falcon and Winter Soldier and stuff, than like a legit like movie. There are things that are decent about this. I think one of the most fun parts of this was spoiled in the advertising, which is the introduction of Red Hulk near the end of the movie. And the MCU has really lost me in the last several years, and it's hard to kind of get very excited about anything that's going on. And so while it is passable entertainment, it's far from the worst MCU outing. It really just doesn't conjure a lot of spark in me. For those who still are on board for the MCU, I can say that this 4K presentation is very nice. It continues Disney's recent trend of introducing Dolby Vision to their releases. It looks very nice, colorful, crisp, no deficits of any sort, no compression issues. Everything looks very nice. Dolby Atmos audio, very immersive and stuff. A lot of people are flying around in this one, so a lot of the overhead channels are really engaged. And then you get some special features, including a commentary track, deleted scenes, featurettes, gag reels, stuff like that. So overall, they have a nice assortment of special features, and audiovisual presentation is pitch perfect. If you're a fan of the MCU, you're still on board, this is a good release of the movie. It's not the worst movie of the MCU. It's definitely not the best. It's just kind of more of that middling to lower tier. I will watch it again at some point, but it's just not one that really has me like cheering in my seat. But for a 4K release, Disney has put out a good release. So fans of the MCU should check it out. My next release, much less high profile, from our friends at Geek and Shout Studios. We have the Japanese anime, The Colors Within. So this is from the creator of, you'll see here, of A Silent Voice, and from Naoko Yamada, which is a kind of a more of an emotionally driven film that I quite enjoyed from maybe like 10 years ago. And this is kind of similarly emotional, and I appreciated that. It's about a girl who has synesthesia or something similar, where she can see or see people's colors, like the colors of their aura, basically. I guess synesthesia would be more hearing colors. So she has the power to like kind of see people's colors, and it kind of influences how she approaches the world and everything. She's kind of an outcast, and she kind of becomes fixated on like a girl in her school and ends up forming a band with her. It's kind of more of a buttoned up religious school, and by forming this band, she's kind of coloring outside the lines a little bit and really just kind of finding her place in this world and stuff. And it is really about kind of connection and feeling like an outsider and all that kind of good stuff that good animes can tackle whenever they're more emotionally driven. I liked it quite a bit. It starts off a little bit slow, but once you really get into the forming of this little band, and especially as you reach the end, and like a lot of the musical performances really touched me, and I think the songs are legitimately good that they create. I really did end up quite liking this. I was, like I said, a little bit slow to get into it, but once it started cooking, I really did enjoy it. And so if you're a fan of this director or just anime, like kind of emotionally driven anime films in general, I would recommend it. This has both the original Japanese and an English dub. I always recommend the original audio, but if you need an English dub, it is here. DTS 5.1. Both of those sound good. Video wise, it looks great, colorful, crisp lines, no macro blocking or anything like that. Everything looks pretty good. No major banding or anything of that sort. You do get a short film with this and a couple of featurettes. But overall, this is a good movie. I enjoyed the colors within. It was a nice, pleasant movie, and you should check it out if it sounds interesting to you at all. And next up, we have a crowd-pleasing 4K upgrade from Sony, one of my favorite studios releasing 4K. We have Heath Ledger in A Knight's Tale. Now, this is a movie that growing up, so many people, like in my school and everything, they would just kind of like rave about it. And I never got around to watching it. So I was glad to finally be able to watch this on 4K in full. This has a 4K and Blu-ray disc. I never owned the previous Blu-ray disc, but I will say that this new 4K restoration was put on this Blu-ray disc as well. It's a new, really remastered Blu-ray disc from this 4K restoration, because from what I understand, the old Blu-ray disc from Sony is ancient and has an old encode, and they added some special features and stuff here. So even if you're not 4K capable, if you just want a better Blu-ray, this does have a better Blu-ray included, in addition to the 4K presentation. I also know a lot of people have an issue with this movie just by how stylistically it's kind of very modern. It includes like a lot of like anachronistic music. Like it starts off with Queen's We Will Rock You, like in this kind of medieval time, like people chanting and everything. And there's just kind of that kind of poppy modern sensibility that is throughout. But it really does make for a good popcorn movie about a kind of a lower class citizen who ends up taking on a persona of a knight, which is pretty much reserved for noblemen, and kind of working himself up the ranks and really becoming kind of like a legendary figure on this jousting circuit, while hiding this secret of who he actually is. And he falls in love, and there's a lot of colorful characters that he meets along the way, that are like his kind of people who are helping him, and a blacksmith, and all these kind of people. What's really fun about this movie is just all the interactions that you get throughout with these interesting characters, like played by like Mark Addy, Paul Bettany, Shannon Sossaman. This is really just kind of a popcorn movie, but that's not completely dumb or anything. Like I said, it is very modern feeling, but if you're not into like complete historical accuracy and you're just in it for the fun, A Knight's Tale will scratch that itch for sure. And it really also just makes you miss that screen presence of Heath Ledger and how good of an actor he was and stuff like this. From this to Brokeback Mountain, like his range, I think he was an amazing actor and he was a lot of fun in this. With this movie being so fun, I'm glad that it got a much needed 4K upgrade. So this got a 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. This includes both the theatrical cut and the extended cut in 4K. So whenever the disc boots up, you can choose either version of the movie, and both of those are fully in 4K, and Sony has done a fantastic job with this. They did a similar thing with the Stripes disc, where they give fans the option to choose the version that they want, both in 4K. Not all studios always do that, so I'm glad that they did. It's like a 12-minute difference. While sometimes extended editions aren't always the best, from what I could tell, I was like reading up on like what was exclusive to the extended version. I think a lot of those helped flesh out the characters in a way that I really appreciated it. But it is nice to be able to watch the theatrical cut as well. It has the original DTS 5.1 track and a new Dolby Atmos track for those who want something a little bit more immersive. So having both options also helps as well, because the Atmos track is really nice. It's tastefully expanded, and especially with some of the musical sequences and just some of the action, like jousting and stuff, it expands things throughout the room a little bit. But if you want the 5.1 track, that is also available. You do get a commentary track, some deleted scenes, some featurettes. There's a lot, like, there were previous deleted scenes on released on physical media, but there's also newly discovered deleted scenes, and along with the various featurettes and stuff. So not only do you get the 4K restoration and the Atmos track and Dolby Vision and everything, you do get new special features. Well-rounded package from Sony. They've done a really nice job with A Knight's Tale. And the video, the new 4K restoration is terrific. It's a really nice natural presentation. The film grain is intact. Everything, all the colors are deep and nuanced. This is just what you want from a 4K restoration and upgrade, and Sony continues to hit it out of the park. They've done a really nice job with A Knight's Tale. So if you're a fan of this, definitely make sure to upgrade it. Like I said, even if you're only Blu-ray capable, the Blu-ray is also a nice upgrade. So make sure to check that out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Continuing on the Steelbook train, going over to a Lionsgate Limited release. So my next two releases can only be found on the Lionsgate Limited website. So you could order exclusively from them. The first of which is the 4K upgrade of the Crazies. This is the 2010 version of the remake of the George A. Romero original. I believe this director, Breck Eisner, if I recall correctly. So you have Timothy Oliphant and Arada Mitchell here, about a town that has its water tainted, and it kind of turns everyone into zombies. And there's just the government is trying to come in and cover things up and kind of basically wipe the town off the map, while Timothy Oliphant is this sheriff who is trying to survive and get him and his wife and his close loved ones out of town, all while there are people turning into crazies, and just which are basically people who are kind of becoming zombified, but mostly giving in to like kind of their most violent impulses. So it's like an infection virus film, and it's works quite well. I'd actually never seen this one before. I'd always meant to. I thought the trailers were effective, and I love the cast. So I enjoyed this one. It has some really solid set pieces, some really memorable moments of like conjuring tension and everything. A very unexpected sequence at a car wash that worked very well. While it kind of hits some the familiar beats of a virus outbreak movie, zombie movie, this hit for me. I enjoyed it. It works well. I think I've heard that the original may have a little bit more kind of overt, like governmental critiques and everything, but I think this one does a nice job, and you kind of get an understanding of like the fuckery of bureaucracy and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I did enjoy this one quite a bit. It's a nice 4K presentation. So this has been given a 4K bump in Dolby Vision. It looks very nice. It has a very refined look, not overly processed or anything like that. And just everything, it's not an overly colorful film, but everything looks deep and complex color-wise. It kind of gives you all the kind of shades that you need and want out of this environment. And yeah, and it also gets a Dolby Atmos upgrade as well, and including the DTS 5.1 track. So the new Dolby Atmos track sounds very good. There's a lot of flying helicopters overhead and everything that expands things out quite nicely. So I think those with the Atmos set up to handle that will enjoy this quite a bit. But really, I think this is the best the film could look on 4K. So audiovisual wise, really great. And then you also get some new special features. You get 2 commentary tracks, one of which is newly recorded from the director, and one which was originally recovered for the Blu-ray that was released in 2010. You get several featurettes that are new, and then all the archival featurettes. So really well-rounded. Lionsgate Limited has done a nice job of Whenever they're doing these 4K upgrades, they usually try to add something new to it, to try to just like appeal to fans and make sure that they know that they're giving them everything that they want. And I think they've done that with the Crazies. I think this was one that a lot of people have been really hoping would get a 4K upgrade, and they've done a really nice job with this. Nice steelbook as well, exclusively at Lionsgate Limited. So if you're a fan, make sure to check out the Lionsgate Limited website, which there will be a link for that in the description of this episode, and where you'll also be able to see the next Blu-ray release. This is the 32nd installment of the Vestron Video Collector Series. It is May on Blu-ray. So this is from director Lucky McKee. And this was actually a movie I watched for the first time on Halloween last year. Previously, I watched it on kind of a rough stream. I believe it was Tubi or some kind of channel I had to watch commercials. So it hasn't been that long since I watched this movie, but it was good to rewatch it on proper high definition transfer without the ads and all that kind of stuff. So for those who don't know, this is a movie starring Angela Bettis, who's kind of like a social outcast. She's grown up kind of creating like imaginary friends, and she grew up with like a lazy eye that kind of like isolated her from people, and she's grown up to kind of just be a little bit of like a kind of a social misfit and trying to make friends and make connections, but a lot of people don't always help her along in that department because people are cruel. And that kind of gently escalates over the course of the movie as she develops crushes on people and makes connections with different people who are maybe not the best for her. And with her being a little bit unstable as well, things kind of escalate to violent means. And as I mentioned, I watched this on Halloween last year. This does build to Halloween night. So if you like to be festive, keep that in mind. But you can watch it anytime. It's a very kind of darkly funny, kind of creepy movie that I like quite a bit. Angela Bettis does a really nice job. And I mean, everyone does. Jeremy Sisto, Anna Faris, so many good people in this movie. That I was begging to get on Blu-ray domestically, because I was this close last year, knowing that I was going to watch it on Halloween, to importing the Second Sight Blu-ray that they released. But just something just kept me from pulling that trigger, and I'm glad it did, because everything that is on that Second Sight release is now included on here. And there's no indication that this is a new HD transfer, so I can only assume, based on previous releases like Your Next and stuff that kind of ported over Second Sight releases, like transfers and everything, I assume that they use the same Second Sight transfer, which for the Vestron series is a little bit better than normal. It's not, I wish this would have been given a 4K upgrade. I think that would have been perfect. But this Blu-ray presentation is quite nice, and it is, like I said, better than the average Vestron release that usually uses kind of an older HD master that's very like speckled with like age, wear and tear and specs and everything. This is pretty consistent. It looks nice. I think fans of this movie will be pleased with how this has been treated, despite the lack of a 4K release. Because there are what they lack in a 4K release, they make up for in special features. There's tons and tons of special features, like I said, from the Second Sight release, but there's tons of them, including 3 commentary tracks, 8 interviews, and various featurettes in addition to that. So the interviews are nice and meaty and everything, and the commentary tracks are plentiful. DTS 5.1 sound, and yeah, it's the only drawback to this is I know a lot of people got used to getting the Vestron Collector Series at a pretty nice, cheap price whenever it's being released wide. So now transitioning to the Lionsgate Limited model will probably throw a lot of people. But I will say that this release is worth it in the end. And I think if you kind of save up some of these titles that I talk about, like the Crazies or Your Next or Third Man or whatever, if you kind of save those up and come buy them all at once, I think you can hit that free shipping threshold, which is like $100. That might help like ease the pain of some of these. But overall, I think people who are a fan of May will want to own this. The second site release that is on Blu-ray is region locked. So if you don't have a region free player, this is the version to get. And even if you are region free, I think this is a version to get just to avoid importing and all that stuff. So overall, good release from Lionsgate for this cult classic from Lucky McKee. And speaking of cult classics, we have one that I know a lot of people are excited about, and this is a huge set. This is Stuart Gordon's classic Re-Animator for just in time for its 40th anniversary. This is the deluxe edition of this set. Look how thick that is. It's a really nice release from Ignite Films. There's a couple of different versions on this. There's one that's a little bit more expensive than this one. That includes like a bobblehead and everything. And then there's also a slimmed down version of this, which doesn't include the feature film on Blu-ray. But this is deluxe edition. It's kind of the middleman. And this will get you the film newly on 4K, a Blu-ray disc of the film, and then this special features. I'm not going to take out everything to show the underneath right now, but there's not really, it's just kind of like a darkness underneath. But so I'll show everything else that the deluxe edition has extra. For those who don't know, this is an H.P. Lovecraft tale. It starts about a doctor who kind of acting kind of like Frankenstein, where he's kind of an outcast who comes to a new medical program and develops a way to bring people back to life. And he becomes a roommate with a guy, another medical student, and things kind of spiral out of control as the body count starts racking up, and you meet new colorful characters, and this has a great cast of just people that not all of them are long for this world, but they're all pretty entertaining. So that you got old Jeffrey Combs here, and my beloved Barbara Crampton here. She does a great job. This is more on the kind of comedic side of the spectrum of the horror side, but a lot of great practical effects, very gross out. Some stuff is a little bit dated in terms of like being like tasteful and everything, but overall it is quite a fun, gross movie about bringing people to life and dealing with the ramifications of that. And this is a beautiful set to kind of encapsulate that. This has been given a new 4K restoration. It's been approved by producer Brian Usna because Stuart Gordon is no longer with us. This has tons of special features. You get 6 new featurettes. You get 3 commentary tracks. You get the integral cut on Blu-ray. You get a documentary. You get tons of interviews and featurettes and deleted scenes. The documentary is pretty substantial too. It's over an hour. Loaded with special features. I believe this includes nearly everything from the previous Arrow video release. Like Ignite Films, who they haven't done a lot in the realm of 4K physical media, but what they've done so far with their previous release, Invaders of Mars, it was fantastic, and they continued that with Re-Animator. They just announced that they're going to be doing the same for Bride of Re-Animator next year. And I want to note that all the releases of this new restoration and everything, this package, is exclusive to the Ignite Films website for all of 2025. So you will not be able to buy this elsewhere until next year. So if you want to own this, especially with all the bells and whistles and packaging and stuff, get this from Ignite Films, which will be linked in this description. But really, really great set from them. And this is quality because it's encoded by Fidelity and Motion. Flawless encode, great, beautiful restoration, natural film grain. Everything looks textured and has a lot of depth to it. All the gory makeup effects are crisp and clear and stomach churning in the best way. Great preserved audio as well. And like I said, I already listed off all the special features. Really, this is just a home run release. If you're a fan of this film, either get this deluxe edition or get the standard edition, which is a little bit cheaper, but with such a care put into the book and everything like that. If you can spring for it, I don't think you'll be disappointed by this deluxe version. So make sure to check that out from Ignite Films. And now we are continuing down a path with the Criterion Collection. My first of which is a Blu-ray release of Bruce Robinson's How to Get Ahead in Advertising. So this stars the wonderful Richard E. Grant. This is kind of a wild film, a follow-up to With Nail and I, in which Richard E. Grant plays like an ad executive who gets tasked with promoting a new product, which starts to make him a little bit loony, and it eventually manifests into him sprouting a boil on this like side of his neck that begins to talk to him and kind of ruin his life. This is a nice essay that's included in the insert. And then kind of like this really sharp satire from Robinson about advertising, and kind of critiquing like Thatcher era England, and just there's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's very darkly funny, absurd, and just really like a biting satire, with a fantastic performance from Richard E. Grant. I thought this was really amusing, and the films that were being released by Handmade Films back in the day were always had a really unique perspective, and I think this is a really interesting one from them. Like I said, it has a pretty wild premise, but if you're on board for kind of like weird body horror with a like mixed with satire, I think you will enjoy this. This has been given a Blu-ray release from the Criterion Collection. This is a 2K restoration of the 35mm interpositive, and while I would have loved for a 4K release, this 2K release does look very nice. Natural film grain, everything looks nice and textured and crisp and everything. It looks good. This is approved by the director of photography. This isn't loaded with special features, but what is there is good. You get a 29-minute interview with Robinson and Richard E. Grant that's edited together. And I did like some of those insights there, including Robinson talking about kind of pitching this to George Harrison from the Beatles, who was part of Handmade Films, and just it had some amusing anecdotes. But overall, good release from the Criterion Collection of this one. I think if you have been waiting for this to get an HD upgrade, this is a nice version of it. But my next couple are 4K upgrades, including the long-awaited iconic indie film Killer of Sheep. This is kind of famous in African-American cinema for kind of showing it's kind of like a slice of life look at the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, and it's kind of broadly about like a man who works at a factory who's kind of just like trying to survive and just going through life and trying to find kind of solace with his family and his wife and all that good stuff. And it's really just like a nuanced portrait of the like life in this neighborhood, which it impacted a lot of people that showed up in like the special features, like Barry Jenkins and stuff. And this is just known even back in 1977 when this was released, that this was just kind of a pretty monumental work from Charles Burnett. And while it is very flowing and not really strictly like A to Z narrative, it's really kind of just a interesting look at this neighborhood that's very poetic, and some of the cinematography, including this scene that's depicted here, is really memorable. If you are a fan of like indie cinema, black cinema, and just very important works in the like cinematic history, I would say Killer of Sheep is definitely one you should have on your radar just for kind of its place in cinema history. And this has been given a 4K release. This is from a 4K digital restoration of the 16mm fine grain. Overall, it looks very nice. It is kind of an older, gritty, like I said, 16mm film. So it's very textured and it's cleaned up, but kind of like gritty. And it resolves very well. It is not in Dolby Vision. This is an SDR release, but everything looks very nice. There are no encoding issues. It is just the feature film on 4K without all like the interviews and stuff taking up bitrate space. You kind of just get the film fully able to look its best, and it looks nice in SDR. But if you're kind of hesitant since it has no Dolby Vision, the Blu-ray also looks nice. The 4K just kind of refines it a little bit better. But you have the original LPCM 1.0 mono. You have an array of special features, including a commentary track, an interview, short films, a documentary. Overall, really well-rounded release for this Charles Burnett film, Killer of Sheep. Worth checking out if it sounds interesting to you. My next 4K upgrade, heading across the pond, we have the 2-pack of The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers from director Richard Lester. So this was released in 1973 and 1974. This is kind of a 2-part story that kind of goes back to the original source material and kind of is a take on that. But through Richard Lester's lens, who worked a lot with like the Beatles on their like A Hard Day's Night and stuff. It has a kind of a tongue-in-cheek quality to a lot of the material, but then also, especially in The Four Musketeers, it knows when to kind of get serious. I'm not going to take all the disc out, but I will just say like all this back here is very similar to what can be found artwork-wise on here. So just be aware of that. It has a really nice cast. Oliver Reed, Raquel Welch, Richard Chamberlain, Michael York, Christopher Lee, Geraldine Chaplin, Faye Dunaway, Charlton Heston. So no lack of talent on screen. And these are both just under 2 hours long. And I never found my attention waning. These are really entertaining stories, great swordplay, and some good comedy, good like mixture of like kind of courtroom in like palace intrigue and just like camaraderie amongst the Musketeers. Overall, it's a very entertaining double feature, and I really appreciated getting to watch this in such nice quality. This is newly released by the Criterion Collection. These are 4K restorations from the 35mm original camera negative provided by Studio Canal. These are in Dolby Vision, and these look very nice. Also includes LPCM 1.0 audio. From what I understand, there was previously a release of this on 4K overseas that had problems with the a pitch issue with one of the movies. This has been corrected on the Criterion Collection release, so everything should be in its right pitch audio-wise. So even if you have that previous 4K release overseas, this is a little bit of an improvement on the audio's front. And then the Dolby Vision 4K restorations look fantastic, nice and colorful. I didn't notice anything awry with that. Everything looks very natural and nice, and just really, really just fantastic for fans. You get a new and archival documentaries. The documentary that's new runs over 2 hours long. It's pretty in-depth and just has some nice interviews with a bunch of different people. And then the archival documentaries are also quite lengthy as well. So lots of good, if you looked at a list, it wouldn't look like a ton of special features. The way they all add up time-wise, there's a lot of in-depth stuff here. So the 3 and 4 Musketeers films, really fun from the Criterion Collection. I think you'll be very pleased if you're a fan. Fantastic release from the Criterion Collection. Going slightly adjacent to the Criterion Collection to the Janus Contemporaries Collection, more modern kind of, is Room 666 and Room 999. This is a double feature in which we get the original Room 666 film from Wim Wenders, which was released in 1982. And then we get the 2023 Room 999 film. And that one is from Lubna Playust. So what we have here is, and this is perfect because I'm recording this while the Cannes Film Festival is currently running. And this back in when this was recorded in the early 80s by Wim Wenders, Room 66 at least, he gathered a group of people who were at the festival and kind of just asked them a simple question about the state of cinema and whether they think cinema is dying, because that was really a hot topic of conversation. And really, there's a lot of great insights from an array of people about like theatrical versus television and just like the rise of blockbusters and just all kinds of stuff in there. So on that front, you have people like Jean-Luc Godard, Paul Morrissey, Monty Hellman, Steven Spielberg, Michelangelo Antonioni, just so many people. And then they did that again 40 years later in Room 999. And in this one, our new director, Lubna, she does the exact same thing, but with a current crop of people, and just seeing how the answers are both the same and different with 4 decades in between them is very fascinating. I think the average person may not find this to be the most fast, engaging documentary, because you're really just watching a hotel room with a camera set up, pointing at a seat, and just seeing people talk about movies. For me, that is heaven. For others, that might not be such, but I love hearing artists talk about their art form and what they think is going on, societally. And a lot of stuff, like in the new one, Room 999, deals a lot with like streaming and exhibition and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff kind of, and like attention spans, all that kind of stuff in here. And then you have people on this and the newer one with like Audrey Dewan, Joachim Trier, James Gray, Lynn Ramsey, Claire Denis, David Cronenberg, Paolo Sorrentino, Ruben Östlund. So many people here that you would, if you're a cinephile, you will recognize a lot of these names. And if you're a cinephile, I think you would also like this. If you're like me, just hearing people talk, like directors you love talking about the movie industry, fantastic for me. The first film, Room 666, isn't super long. It's 45 minutes long. And then the Room 999 is an hour and a half long. So these fit comfortably on one disc together. The Room 666 has been restored from the 16mm original camera negative. It was scanned in 4K and finished in 2K. It's a very nice restoration. Everything looks very nice. And then Room 999 is a new HD movie. There's no issues with that either. Lossy 2.0, Dolby Digital 2.0 for Room 666, and then a 5.1 track for Room 999. And then in terms of special features, you get a 15-minute interview with the new director, Lubna Playust. Really just a nice release. I'm a documentary fan, and seeing something like this that appeals so directly to my taste, I was, like I said, in heaven. So if that sounds like heaven to you, check out this Room 666 and Room 999. Double feature from Janus Contemporaries. I don't think you will be disappointed. It's a nice Blu-ray release. And since we were just speaking about cinema as an art form, I figured we'd go back more towards the beginning of things, back to the silent era with the Undercrank Pictures release of the Tom Tyler Western double feature. So you get The Law of the Plains and The Man from Nevada. So these are from 1929. And then you got this release here. This is a burn disc, so for those who have issues with that, you are not guaranteed a pressed disc. Some things I get from Undercrank are pressed discs, but most of them are burn discs, so just be aware of that. If you have issues with that, be very aware of that. But these are, like I said, silent era films. It's kind of Tom Tyler, who's kind of a forgotten star of the era, dealing in the space that it's kind of familiar Western tropes. Like on one movie, you have a man protecting people from evil, and then another man seeking, on the other one, that he's seeking vengeance. So kind of classic Western archetypes, and they're entertaining for what they are, especially for I believe it's the Law of the Plains. Is the one that has like some reels missing, just because of the restoration process. These are such old films that not everything exist or anything, but they still want to release these films in some form. So you'll have like certain sections, not very many, where you'll have like descriptions on what is happening in the story, but there's no footage that exists anymore of these titles. But Undercrank has done their best to kind of restore things to their full glory, and they've done a nice job with these two. They're not very long. Man from Nevada is 45 minutes, and The Law of the Plains is 36 minutes. But if you kind of like this era of filmmaking, this is kind of like Westerns aren't super represented, but I'm glad that they are trying to bring a little bit more light on someone like Tom Tyler, especially with these nice presentations. These are new 2K restorations. From the archival nitrate 35 millimeter elements preserved by USC. And while, of course, for films of this age, things aren't perfect, there's like still nicks and scratches, of course, but everything's been stabilized and kind of kept as pristine as possible. So I think restoration wise, this is very impressive. You do get a slideshow that's like 4 minutes long, but nothing too meaty in terms of special features. But such work was put into the restorations that I think if you're a silent film fan, it's worth checking out this Tom Tyler double feature from Undercrank Pictures. They always do a really nice job. But if you're hungry for the Western genre, but you want to go into the talkie era, we go over to our friends at Classic Flicks, and they have their new restoration of The Proud Rebel on Blu-ray with Alan Ladd and Olivia de Havilland, and Alan Ladd's real-life son playing his son here. This is a tale of Alan Ladd as a man with a son, who it's just him and his son traveling to try to find someone who can fix his son's muteness. He kind of developed the inability to speak after seeing some horrible stuff in his childhood, and now his father's trying to help him get his voice back. But along the way, they stop in a town, and they end up coming across some ne'er-do-wells that forces them to stay in town and work for Olivia de Havilland's character, who's kind of kind-hearted and kind of independent, and trying to fend off these kind of ne'er-do-wells who got Alan Ladd's character in his predicament. And one of those people is played by a young Harry Dean Stanton, which is fun. I do love Harry Dean Stanton. He's a magnificent bastard in this one. And there's some great works with dogs in this one. Like if you like to see dog sheep herding, that's an integral plot point. It's a lot of fun as well. This is just a really solid Western. Alan Ladd does a nice job. There's a little cloying moments, I would say, that kind of takes away some of the grit of the movie, but I think that's kind of in line with what the genre demanded. But it's action-packed enough, and mostly it's just an avenue for these performers to do what they do best, and they have a really convincing connection on screen, and overall, I did quite enjoy it. And this is a nice Blu-ray from Classic Flicks. The elements that they were working with were not the best. They were restored in collaboration with the Library of Congress for a 4K scan. There is a screen at the beginning of the movie where they say that some of the elements were basically so beyond repair that there are some like dropped frames and everything. So you will notice that occasionally you'll see little jumps here and there. That's just a product of how how the elements were whenever this was being restored and everything. So the fact that we got this at all is a major win. Color wise, it looks very nice and saturated quite well. It does kind of have a soft appearance throughout, probably because of the elements that were being used. But overall, I think it's a pretty nice release. It's just not as crisp as something that you're getting from like the 4K scan of the original camera negative. But overall, it looks nice. It's a very gritty transfer. So if you're a hater of grain, you will not love this transfer, but I think the movie is solid enough that you should check it out, because Classic Flicks has done a nice job with restoring this one. And the audio, it sounds pretty decent as well. And then also, you can definitely see how good of a job they did restoring this one whenever there's a restoration comparison as one of the special features. So seeing how it looked before to how it looks now, definitely a big step up and a really nice win for fans. You do get a couple of other special features, including a commentary track, an interview, and a isolated music track as well. This is one from director Michael Curtiz, not as well known in his work, but definitely worth checking out. The Proud Rebel, another solid release from Classic Flicks. All right, now I'm starting the first of several releases from one of my favorites, Deaf Crocodile, the first of which is one that I've been waiting to talk about for a while, and I'll explain about that in a second. We have the double feature of Signals, A Space Adventure, and removing this J card, in the dust of the stars. So that's a 2-pack of these two movies here. You can see that there. And so these are two German movies, where like Signals, A Space Adventure is a story about people who are going out to space after hearing that, like, going after their comrades in hopes of rescuing them after they are thought to be lost, and what kind of happens then. And then In the Dust of the Stars is more of a tale of landing on a planet and finding out that everything that is there is not quite as it seems. And both of these are quite interesting. I like Signals, A Space Adventure a little bit more, but both of them are quite entertaining. And as I mentioned, I've been waiting to talk about this for a while, because the first pressing of this had issues with the In the Dust of the Stars disc. But they have fixed the issue, which I'm not actually sure what it was. I was told about the issue before I viewed it, so I just waited to see the new disc. But they shipped it out in my latest batch from Diabolic. And if you, for some reason, did not order this early and did not get a replacement disc, you can just contact Diabolic, and I'm sure they will set you up. But from everything I've seen, the process has been pretty seamless. But they send it out in a disc like this. This is the old first pressing. What I really like and what I want to show off here is they differentiate so you can know which disc is the correct one pretty easily, because there's a blue tint here and a green tint here. But more importantly, there's a V2 here, so version 2, to make sure you got the right disc. But I keep my old disc just for, I don't know, sentimental reasons, I guess. They did correct whatever issue, which I did not know. They've corrected it, and it is their first and to date only issue that they've had to address on one of their release. You also do get a slip with a QR code where you can download the transcribed bonus content. But this is a really cool set. It's a nice restoration. You get a 6K scan of Signals that's finished to 2K, but 6K scan looks fantastic from the 70mm elements. Really crisp, clear picture. Really nice. I don't see any issues with it at all, and fans will love it. The Dust In the Dust of the Stars is a 2K scan. That one's a little bit of an older scan, but it still looks very nice. There's small things here and there, like little specks here and there, and like just kind of minor issues that make it not quite as impressive as Signals, but still In the Dust of the Stars is still a very good release from Deaf Crocodile. Sound is good as well in the original German, with English subtitles, optional English subtitles. You do get commentary tracks for these. You get video essay. Just the quality that you expect from Deaf Crocodile is in this set. So been waiting to talk about it since early March, but now I'm finally able to share my love for this release. As I do with all Deaf Crocodile releases, they do a nice job. And in case I haven't showed it off already, if you get the deluxe version, you get this nice thick booklet here with plenty of essays and photo reproductions, just tons and tons of great stuff, along with this nice chipboard box. For this particular release, you get a couple of different versions on what your artwork can be. I believe this is version C, so there's like 3 versions, but I quite like this one. And I just want to show you what that looks like. If you get the deluxe version, if you want to save a little money and you don't care about packaging or booklets or anything, you can get the standard version, which would just be this right here, this Scanova case. So Signals, A Space Adventure, and In the Dust of the Stars, sci-fi double feature. Really, really great release from Deaf Crocodile. And continuing on with them, we have another release from them. We have Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wastelands. Yes, that is a kind of a provocative title, and it is a little bit of a weird movie, but it is not as kind of like lascivious as maybe it would sound. It is about like a private detective who is trying to find a girl who is seen in what might be a snuff film, seeing if she is still alive, but while also harboring the desire for revenge for something that happened to him many years ago, and he wants to get his revenge on this kind of crime boss who wronged him. And it is not quite as straightforward as all of that. There's also a lot of manipulation of time elements and everything. It's kind of very head trippy and non-linear and very surprising in a lot of ways. I know Deaf Crocodile put a lot of care into preserving this one, especially since they are restoring this from the last known remaining elements of this. So this is once again a release where you do get a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie talking about like certain issues with the elements and all the man hours that they put in there to kind of make things as seamless as possible. So while it's not as like immaculate as some restorations that they've done, it's still very impressive, and the way they've mitigated some of the issues that should be occurring here is very, very admirable. And I think anyone who's a fan of this movie will be very pleased by how this looks. You have the original audio as well that doesn't sound too shabby. You do get a commentary track, an interview, and a video essay. Inflatable Sex Dolls of the Wasteland. A little bit aggressive in its title, but overall very much worth checking out. If you're a fan of Japanese cinema, or you just trust my recommendations and want to see like an interesting kind of head trippy movie, definitely worth checking out. And also, if you try to look up that one on IMDb, it will come up as a different title, but if you type it in, it'll pop up another title, and it's that movie. But my next title is another one from Bill Plimpton, not too long after I Married a Strange Person, is Mutant Aliens. So this is another fun one from him, keeping with our sci-fi aesthetic that we've been cultivating a little bit throughout this episode and will only continue. This is about an astronaut that comes back to Earth after years of being gone and brings with him some alien life forms that may or may not be friendly. You have to watch to find out. Here's the transcribed bonus feature QR code. And this, in some ways, is as wild as I Married a Strange Person in terms of like disgusting imagery and kind of sexuality and everything, but in other ways it's a little bit more reserved. But definitely much more in your face than the Toon. Get some nice artwork and essays here as well if you got the deluxe edition, which is available at Def Crocodile and Diabolic and Diabolic DVD. If you're a Bill Plimpton fan, this one might be my favorite so far. This one has a good sense of humor, and I love kind of like alien invasion tales, and this one has a fun spin on it. There's some eyebrow raising things here, of course, but that is his twisted sense of humor in action. But overall, I did really quite like Mutant Aliens, and this is a nice Blu-ray from Def Crocodile. This is another 2K restoration of the original camera negative, original 2.0 audio. You get 2 commentary tracks. One is newly recorded, one's archival. You get a 90-minute documentary on the making of this movie, an interview, and some short films. So the Bill Plimpton love keeps on rolling at Def Crocodile. So Mutant Aliens, check it out if you're a fan of Plimpton. And continuing in the sci-fi animation realm, we're going over to Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 1 with Mystery of the Third Planet, The Pass, and The Return. So I didn't want to get that wrong, so I need to read all that off. Read all that off. So this is another deluxe edition set here with a couple of short films that are very engaging, involving exploring new planets and everything, and finding surprising things, and trying to return home from certain expeditions, and all kinds of just the intersection of humanity and space and connection, all that kind of good stuff, all within this animated Soviet aesthetic. I quite liked discovering these. There's some beautiful artwork, some varied artwork. I don't know how Def Crocodile keeps doing it. I just, the way they're able to, like, their knowledge of cinema and really just working in a space that no other boutique label is really even touching on this level is always fantastic. And I think they should be applauded for what they do every month, and just their ambitions just keep growing and they keep knocking it out of the park. And this Blu-ray release is wonderful. So you get some new restorations courtesy of Def Crocodile. Look really great, nice bold colors, everything looks nice. You do get some commentary tracks, video essays. Overall, home run for Def Crocodile. Just fantastic work on all fronts. Staying in animation, but a little bit more straightforward, we're going over to Mill Creek Entertainment's release of Masters of the Universe Revelation and Revolution. So this is a Netflix series, the first of which, Revelation, was 2 parts running 10 episodes, and then Revolution was the 3rd part running 5 episodes. So 15 episodes in total. That is a direct continuation of the 80s He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. That includes all 3 parts on 3 discs, so 5 episodes per disc, no special features. But for those who don't want to be beholden to subscribing to Netflix, I think you will be very pleased to be able to own these on physical media. I'm of course aware of He-Man. I've reviewed a documentary about it. I'm aware of popular culture and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not intimately familiar with He-Man. I have the old DVDs of the original series. I have not gotten through them all, but from everything I understand, this picks up right after the events of that original series. But even if you aren't going back to the original series and checking this out, you can pick up on it pretty well, and it's like fairly easy to get into for new fans. Even though it starts in a very dramatic fashion that I think was a little bit of a shock for like He-Man fans, and how they kind of work through that throughout the series. This puts a lot of emphasis on a lot of the side characters of the He-Man universe. So you're getting a lot of development from like a lot of people that we didn't know as well in the original series. You just get a little bit more depth to them. All with great, some great vocal performances. You got people like Mark Hamill as Skeletor, people like Sarah Michelle Gellar, just tons of really great voice performers here. And while it's not perfect, there are some narrative missteps that I don't quite jive with. Overall, I think this is quite a respectful continuation for the series, in terms of like style and tone. And it's especially surprising considering I did not know this at first. This was the brainchild of Kevin Smith, who is a huge nerd, but not someone I was thinking was involved with this show. But discovering that as a Kevin Smith fan, I did enjoy. But he doesn't go like crazy with like inappropriate humor and stuff like that. It's a He-Man show, and it works quite well. I think its main purpose was to tie up a lot of the loose ends from that series from the 80s that never got the proper send off. And I think this is respectful, imperfect but respectful conclusion to that whole epic saga. And then now you can own it from Mill Creek. They do a pretty good job encoding wise. I didn't notice a lot of the way in like artifacting or anything like that. Not overly stuffed in terms of disc allocation with the episodes. No special features, like I said, but everything looks and sounds pretty solid. So if you are a fan of these two installments of the Master of the Universe, this is a really nice Blu-ray reset from Mill Creek, and I think you'll be very pleased to pick that up. But moving on from animation for a little bit, we're going over to a release from Arrow Video. As people who watch this series know, love Arrow Video, and this is one of their newer acquisitions. This is Steppenwolf. So this is from, I believe, the language is Kazakhstan/Russian. So somewhere in that vein. This is the reversible cover art here. But it is one of their kind of newer acquisitions, which I know a lot of people are hit or miss with those, but I typically have good success rate with them. I especially love this movie called A Ghost Waits, which I reviewed on Geek Vibes Nation. And I think this is another solid addition from the recent years. It's about a woman who's kind of in a country that's kind of devolving into lawlessness. There is a government being overthrown. And she's kind of not completely at full mental capacity, I would say, but she is looking for her son, and she gets involved with this government kind of fixer dude who, in order to get his life spared from being killed from this insurrection, ends up helping this woman try to find her son. And it's a very dark comedy-ish, like road trip movie trying to find this kid who may or may not already be dead because he's been kind of picked up by a trafficking ring, and she's trying to figure out how to get him back. So it's like a very violent tale of trying to find this missing kid. And this is kind of a spoiler, but not really. But just like, if you don't grow attached to anyone, because like anyone who crosses this guy's path is gonna get killed. There's so much bloodshed in this movie, and like just no one is safe. And if you like kind of a revenge, like dark comedy, Steppenwolf I think is very much worth checking out. I overall really did enjoy it. It has a really great soundtrack. Kind of sounds very kind of like the Drive soundtrack a little bit kind of 80s synth kind of like overall aesthetic. Really enjoyed that. And in addition to that, one of the special features is an additional movie. So it's actually a 2-pack from the director. There's also another film called Goliath, which I also quite enjoyed, which is more about a man trying to get revenge from like this local crime outfit who kind of is running the community and is seemingly all powerful, but he's trying to work his way into this kind of inner sanctum in order to be able to take this guy out who kind of took someone from him. Both of these movies are quite entertaining and good, and for both of those being in one disc, not overly long either film, so these are encoded competently, so there's no artifacts or anything like that. It's a very good value to get full feature films in HD, looking great, sounding great. You also get a commentary track on Steppenwolf, a visual essay, and behind the scenes footage. Steppenwolf, if you're not afraid of Arrow Video tackling newer movies, it's very much worth checking out. I wouldn't lead you astray. This is a good movie. Now we are heading over to Eureka Video and another amazing box set from them. They are typically associated a lot with Asian cinema, but here we're going over to German cinema with Terror in the Fog, the Wallace Krimi at CCC collection. So you have 5 films on Blu-ray and then an additional film in standard definition, which I'll talk about here in a second. We previously had a Krimi crime film collection with Dr. Mabuza, and this is continuing as with the Yellow Snake, the Curse of the Yellow Snake, the Strangler of Blackmore Castle, the Mad Executioners, Monster of London City, and the Racetrack Murders. So here is the Strangler at Blackmore Castle. So you have that reversible cover arts and stuff, and then I already listed off the Monster of London City here, and finally the Racetrack Murders. So that's on here. That has its own disc. You get the Monster of London City on its own disc. Going back to that first collection, you get on the first disc, you have Curse of the Yellow Snake and the Strangler of Blackmore Castle sharing a disc. And then you have the Mad Executioners, and then the Phantom of Soho is a standard definition version of this movie, which is a little bit disappointing, but I guess that's all that was available. So 5 HD films, 1 standard definition film. And a lot of these films, I won't go into depth on each one of them, but you have a lot of like serial killers being dealt with and cults and just mostly just like in some way, form or another, people are getting killed and we're trying to figure out who is doing it, who's behind it, what their motivations are, all that kind of stuff. And these are kind of like a forebear to like the modern slasher film, but just kind of with that classic kind of like German expressionism aesthetic to go along with it to make it a little bit extra unsettling. This is a very interesting subgenre, and I'm glad that Eureka is putting so much care into bringing those to high definition. They've done a nice job with this set. These have all been restored. 5 new restorations in 2K. And then, as I mentioned, the Phantom of Soho is in standard definition. You do get both a German and an English, the original German and an English dub for each film. You get intros to each film, you get commentary tracks, you get interviews, you get visual essays. Really just going all out, and as always, for their releases. Beautiful packaging, great special features, really good audio visual presentation, and just very, very entertaining films. I liked all of these quite a bit, and they're pretty short, so I was able to get through them pretty quickly. Eureka, knocking it out of the park. Another amazing label on the docket, we have Fun City Edition's release of Falling in Love with Robert De Niro and Meryl Streep, about a pair of people who meet on a train. Both of them are married, but that doesn't stop them from starting something. And that inherent premise kind of keeps me... I watched this for the first time a couple of years ago, for actually my Christmas in July celebration that I do with my wife every year, because this is a Christmas movie. It starts with Christmas, it ends with Christmas. There's non-Christmas in between, but over the course of a year, there's stuff going on, and it's firmly anchored in the Christmas spirit. But about these people who, to one degree or another, may or may not hold some kind of issues in their past that kind of keeps them disconnected from their partners. More so Meryl Streep than Robert De Niro. his motivation for not for straying from his wife is a little bit more opaque to me, but his chemistry with Meryl Streep is so beguiling that I kind of give in to the spirit of the movie, of these two falling in love and what that means and what it like for each other and in their bigger lives and everything. Really good chemistry between these two. I did quite enjoy it. And this is, like I said, I watched this a couple of years ago for the first time. I enjoyed it more on the second viewing. I was kind of able to kind of go along with it a little bit more. And yeah, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's heartfelt. Overall, really, really enjoyed this one. And I'm glad to own it now because my previous experience with this movie was a pretty poor looking dated transfer on streaming. This is new from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative, DTS 2.0 audio, beautiful, beautiful score that I love. And this is a terrific visual transfer, bright, colorful, no damage, just everything you want from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. Looks great. You get a commentary track and a gallery. There's also a hidden Easter egg for a trailer. Overall, Fun City Edition, just always rescuing gems, and this one is no different. They've done a nice job with this Blu-ray of Falling in Love, so make sure to check that out. If you're a fan of either of these performers, it's very much worth your time. Going over to Radiance Films, we have a couple from them, the first of which is a wild Themroc. So this is technically a French movie, but there is no understandable language in here. It's all kind of gibberish that is spoken and grunts and noises. It's about a man he's a worker, and he kind of starts to kind of break away from societal norms at one point. And he kind of it's described on the back of the cover, and I guess it's the best way to describe it. He's like it starts to become kind of caveman-esque, of just like giving in to his base impulses. He kind of holds himself up in his apartment, but kind of like almost sparks a little revolution in his little corner of his complex, and people kind of start acting. It seems like either something is happening within the community or something's going on where everyone's trying to kind of reverting back to their base impulses. And that includes like a lot of taboo topics, including incest and everything. This movie's a lot, but in a way that I found very, it wasn't off-putting, but it's a lot. And I don't think it's for everyone. It's like, because if someone's going to watch a movie where there's no understandable dialogue and it's just like more movement and grunts and everything, that's a very specific type of cinephile. And I fall into that category. I can hang with it, but not a lot of people won't. But if you think you can, it's worth checking out. It's never been given a home entertainment release in America, so this is probably a lot of people's first time ever hearing about this, let alone seeing it. But Radiance has done a really nice job with this, including a 4K restoration of the original camera negative, conducted by Studio Canal. Looks really good. Still looks a little bit soft in spots and kind of just a gritty looking picture, but nothing has seemed overly damaged or anything like that, and just been handled very nicely by Radiance. You get some interviews on this one, but the audio-visual presentation is the winner here. So Themroc, if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. Going over to some Japanese cinema, we have the Rapacious Jailbreaker. So this one is a pretty decent one from Sadao Nakajima. And as you maybe can discern from the title, it is about a man who finds himself rightfully in prison and not wanting to be there and continually finding ways to break out of jail. I believe it's based on a real man and just his penchant for finding his way to getting out of jail. But once he gets out of jail, not really knowing what to do necessarily with his freedom. He just wants to break free. It's A very entertaining and engaging movie about just someone who just does not want to be caged. It's very well done, and this HD presentation, courtesy of a transfer from Toei, holds up pretty well. Maybe small things here and there that aren't perfect, but overall a really nice transfer, handled well. Japanese audio sounds good. You get a commentary track and a visual essay. Overall, really nice job from Radiance Films. It's not our only film from Asian cinema. We are going over to Hideo Gosha's Gate of Flesh from 88 Films. So this is very much a kind of critique of Japanese life after U.S. like the dropping the atomic bomb, and how U.S. intervention during World War II really just kind of like messed everyone up on a societal level, and how the effects of that kind of radiated in various different ways. This is in a microcosm in this movie, shown through the various women who are kind of form like a little gang, but are like a group of sex workers who are trying to make a better life for themselves, and how even after a lot of this like U.S. intervention, their lingering presence continues to kind of upset them, and just kind of the lingering specter of war, how that kind of works its way into the narrative, works very well. There's with a movie about sex workers from Hideo Gosha, there's quite a bit of nudity in here and some very uncomfortable situations like sexual assault and everything. But overall, it's a very engaging movie. It's very much worth checking out if you are not like super prudish or anything in terms of sexuality. But it's also not overly gratuitous, I would say. It tells a very worthwhile story in terms of like the societal conflicts and everything, that I think it's more than just kind of your run-of-the-mill exploitation film. It has to meet to the themes, and very much worth seeking that out if it sounds interesting to you at all. This comes from an HD transfer, courtesy of 88 Films. It looks very nice, very consistent, nice textures. There's a lot of rubble around their layer that it's very easily defined. You do get a commentary track and an introduction and an interview in Japanese audio only. Very good work from 88 Films for Gate of Flesh. All right, heading in the home stretch, going to have a double feature of recent international cinema. The first of which, from Bruno Dumont, is The Empire, which is described as kind of like a satire of like modern, like kind of like Star Wars blockbuster-esque films. But and I can see that, but it also works kind of as a decent enough version of that. I know this is a very polarizing film. I follow more on the positive side of this. And because it's basically about a faction of good versus evil. Zeros and ones are what they're called, like the different factions. And what I really find interesting about this is how it contrasts. Most of the film is set on our Earth, with these beings that are kind of immersed amongst us, that are all within this. We are situated in this coastal town in France, where all this stuff is going on in this town, where everything looks pretty normal. It starts off almost looking like a normal like French drama, until you see like a lightsaber-esque figure about like 10 minutes into the movie. And then you keep going back to it pans to all the stuff that's happening in space as like this invasion's coming. And then you go back to the Earth, where like it's like all these people are acting in this big movie, but it's in a small scale container. And that works pretty well for me. I found it pretty engaging as a sci-fi tale, and amusing in points. Something about it, I liked it. Clicked for me. Maybe because it has an actress I really like, Anna Maria Bartolome. This lady right here. I first saw her in this movie Happening. It's an abortion drama. She's very good in it. But I'm glad to see her continue to get work. I'm actually going to be talking about her on my next film too. I got to see her in back-to-back films, and she's fantastic in both of them. Yeah, it's a sci-fi tale, kind of a satire, but also kind of takes it seriously. There's a lot going on here, but if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. Great HD transfer. It's a new movie, original French audio. No real special features besides trailers, but overall, I liked it. Liked it more than most, but check it out, see for yourself. But as I mentioned, Anna Maria, she is the star in this one as well. It is Being Maria alongside Matt Dillon. So this is very prescient, considering a couple of weeks ago I talked about the Marlon Brando Maria Schneider film Last Tango in Paris. And I talked about the controversial aspects of that film. You really get into that in Being Maria, because this is about her story, Maria Schneider's story, making that film. Like you can see, they're making Last Tango in Paris. Matt Dillon plays Marlon Brando. But it's not just about that film. It's about Maria Schneider's life in totality. I quite enjoyed is like a wrong word for this, considering there's such heavy themes, but I was engaged by it. Anna Maria does a fantastic job as Maria Schneider. Matt Dillon is not in the movie a ton, but when he is, he does a good job. And you really just see kind of how this, like, some pivotal events on this set really shaped her life, and how the lingering trauma of that really stuck with her, and people's perception of her from being in Last Tango in Paris really messed her up for a long time, coupled with how her mom treated her as a youth and everything. And like a lot of things swirled together in her life to just really not a pleasant situation. But this movie itself, if you can handle kind of the more weighty themes, it is very much worth checking out. This is a really good Blu-ray release. HD transfer looks great. You do get Q&As, interviews, trailers, overall good selection of special features for Being Maria. Another from Kino, we have a really cool set from Kino Classics in the Library of Congress. It is Wonder Dogs. It is another set from the team that brings you a lot of really cool silent era cinema. This one involves canines that were in silent era films. This goes beyond like Rin Tin Tin to some of like, this goes from like feature films to like documentaries and short films, and just like minor like promotional reels and everything. Everything that they've been able to find in these like old archival collections that involve like like dogs and stuff. There was enough to fill a 2-disc set filled with tons of work here. You can kind of see like the full rundown here over the 2-disc. Not all of them are in the crisp and clear quality, but from films from the silent era, these have been restored lovingly, and they are really cool. Some really exciting films, really cute films. There's a lot of stuff. If you're a dog lover, this is such a fun set of just really unexpected but really cool features. Very much worth checking out. And just like as a gem of undiscovered silent film material, Kino Classics is knocking it out of the park. Really cool release. Good special features, including audio commentaries, interviews with the composer and the film like the restoration people who are spearheading this project. Wonder Dogs, very, very cool release from Kino. And then finally, a couple of releases. First of which, from RLJ and Shudder, we have the Creep Tapes Season 1. This follows a pair of films from the Creep horror series starring Mark Duplass. This kind of continues along that. He returns as the character he played in those movies. Basically kind of like a day in the life of a slasher and like kind of a found footage form. And you get to see some of his other victims. These are kind of like shorter half-hour episodes. Bite-sized installments are 6 episodes. if you like the creep films, kind of their wacky sense of humor mixed with like a little like sudden violence, I think you'll like the Creep tapes overall. You get some cool people like Josh Rubin guest starring in this, but it's not shaking up the formula too much from episode to episode. But if you like the Creep series, very much worth checking out. You get a brief Q&A, like a minute-long Q&A supplement, but more importantly, you get an audio commentary for each episode from the creative team, including Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce. This is a found footage series, so it's not always the most crisp and clear video, but it's representative of the aesthetic very well. Audio sounds great. Overall, really great release from this series. And then finally, we are getting the 4K upgrade of one of the better horror films I've seen in recent years. This is the Shudder original When Evil Lurks, which my beloved editor, who is putting in the work on this episode, reviewed this one back in the day. So go read Anya's review of this one on geekvibesnation.com. But this is a really cool horror film about basically a demon plague pretty much being spread around a community. And it gets super gnarly and violent and upsetting and takes no prisoners. I reviewed the previous Blu-ray of this and I really loved it then. I still love it. It's very unsettling, but very good. And a lot of people are hoping this will get a 4K release. And how is the 4K release? I will tell you, it is very good. I would not say it's a night and day difference from the Blu-ray because there is no Dolby Vision. This is a SDR 4K presentation. So there's a small refinement in like the maybe fine detail, probably not much at all, but just like you get the full 4K presentation and maybe encoding issues in terms of like deeper black levels, no banding and stuff not as obvious banding and stuff like that. But it's hard to say that, like I said, this is not going to be a night and day upgrade for most, but if you just want the best version on the market, this is the best in North America that you can get. This new 4K presentation from Shudder. It is good, but it's not like a huge leap in quality because the Blu-ray was already pretty solid. You get just the same special features, including a behind-the-scenes gallery, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Regardless, you should have, if you're a horror fan, When Evil Lurks should be in your collection. You might as well get the best version from Shudder on 4K. It's worth checking out. And it's not too much money right now, so much worth seeking that out if you're a fan of horror films. Whew. Thank you for sticking with me for this episode. I had a blast talking about this with you. I hope you found something that you enjoyed. I always enjoy spending time with you every week. For those who come back every week, thank you so much. Let me know what I talked about that you are interested to check out. Make sure to share this with anyone that also loves physical media because I love to continue growing the show. I appreciate everyone who helps with that. Make sure you like and subscribe to Geek Vibes Nation's YouTube channel. I do this every week, but I love doing it. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. I will get back again next week with another great selection of titles. But until next week, enjoy these movies.
Why don't you let me borrow your Roscoe?
And I don't keep no gun.
Why you always want to hurt somebody?
Who, me? That's the way nature is. I mean, the animal has his teeth, and the man has his fists. That's the way I was brought up, goddamn me.
Right on.
I mean, when a man's got scars on his mug from dealing with some of the bitches every day for his natural life, ain't nobody gonna run over this nigga. Just dry along so. Me and Smoke here, we taking our issue. You be a man if you can, Stan.
Hey, you wait just 1 minute. You talking about be a man, stand up. Don't you know it's more to it than just with your fists? The scars on your mug, you talking about an animal or what? No, you think you're still in the bush some damn where? You here, you use your brain, that's what you use.